E-commerce and digitization have paved the way for talent and innovation and made it easier for brands and startups to reach customers directly. But how do these direct-to-consumer startups build their brands for new-age consumers? Let's hear it from Mr. Shashank Mehta, founder of The Whole Truth Foods, and Mr. Deep Bajaj, founder of Sirona Hygiene, two startups which are now household names for the customers of today. And also take some inspiration from Mr. Piyush Pandey, CCO Worldwide and EC India Ogilvy, a legend in the space of Indian advertising.
Hi everyone, good morning and welcome to Amazon Sambhav 2022. I'm Shashank Mehta, founder and CEO at The Whole Truth Foods, a D2C startup. We are India's first 100% clean label food brand. What that means is that we make food so clean, we can declare each and every ingredient proudly upfront. And like a lot of D2C startups, we started our journey by selling on our website and then on Amazon. Now, unlike traditional brands, which were all born and brought up in retail, this ability to sell directly to our end consumers presents many interesting possibilities around brand creation that brands of the past perhaps did not have. And yet, I find many fellow founders struggle with finding the right approach and the right frameworks to think about brand building in this new age where consumers prefer the convenience of buying from anywhere versus the experience of touch and feel. I'm joined here today by another founder of a D2C brand, Deep Bajaj, from the award-winning social startup Sirona Hygiene. Sirona is known for solving unaddressed intimate and menstrual hygiene issues faced by women with their category-defining products like Peabody's, Sirona menstrual cups, etc. And together, we are going to talk to one of the biggest legends of the Indian advertising and branding space, Mr. Piyush Pandey. Piyush is the... Hi, Piyush. Allow me to, while you need no introduction, I'll still say a few words. Piyush is the Chief Creative Officer Worldwide and Executive Chairman for India Ogilvy, and the man behind some of the most legendary advertisements that we all remember. He's the man behind Dum Laga Ke Haisha, Kuch Khas Hai Hum Sabhi Mein, Googly Oogly Whoosh, and so much more. Welcome, Piyush. It's such an honor to be with you today.
Thank you so much, partner.
Awesome. Piyush, Deep and I are going to take turns to ask you some not so tough, but some slightly tough questions.
It's not that tough anyway, because we are all into a new game. So yeah. You are not an expert as yet, and I'm far behind you. But we have learnings that we can share with each other. You can throw out the ones which are useless to you, but think once before throwing it out. You can add to my knowledge as we go along. And I'll share with you as to what I think. What is useful is all yours.
Awesome. Actually, that's a great segue into the first question that I had, which is the absolute basic that as a man who's seen and made brands for 40 years, what as per you is a brand, and has that definition changed in the D2C internet age?
I believe, and I've always said this, and I've said it in my new book also right now, that I don't work for the client. I work for the consumer. And anyone who's followed that, whether in the mass media advertising space or in direct space, if you think of the consumer, you will communicate better. What is common between your business and the businesses of the old, which are continuing to do well, is how can you create affinity? How can you create trust is a very big word. Trust comes from the consumer, not from your saying it. How can you earn the trust? How can you be a person who enters somebody else's space and be welcomed? That is a common thing, and I think nothing will change. Whether you do it by meeting somebody, by addressing somebody personally, or you go in mass media space where you touch their hearts. That is the key thing. Of course, everyone wants to know what are you about, but everyone also needs to know that you are sincere. You have again a word that we'll talk about later, that you have a purpose of making relationships. I'm not going into larger purposes because that's a topic on its own. But my purpose to create a sustainable brand is by having a great relationship with my consumer. My client may not like me. That doesn't matter. But if he sees the results, he'll start liking me. But I better be liked by the consumer.
Brilliant. Piyush, huge fan of yours. I've said it 100 times. And thank you for that, invaluable insight, customer first. So my first question, sir, is how do you think, sir, is brand equal to product, or is brand equal to category, or is it something entirely different? Because I mean, how do you come up with kuch khas hai and Fevicol ads, which have nothing to do with the product per se, So
certain things, again, the second thing I would like you to keep in mind, which has benefited me all through my life, is respect your audience and their intelligence. If he knows the product, if he knows that a detergent washes, you don't have to take him to your research lab and tell him how you made it. The difference between a product and a brand is very simple. A product actually is delivery of a need. A brand is when the product becomes lovable by the consumer.
Wow.
That is the only difference between product and brand.
Wow.
You can have a transactional product, or you can have a product that I go to 4 sites in your case, or I go to 4 shops in the marketplace. And if I haven't found that day I say, I'll wait for 2 days.
Wow.
That is a brand.
Couldn't have been said better.
And that's like the aspiration for all of us brand owners, that someday someone will go to a store and say, "Agar ye brand nahi hai, to main ja raha hu."
And jo sawal aapne pucha, and you referred to some of the work that I have done, but take the example of Asian Paints. When I wrote Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai, I did not know at that point of time, but I knew that I was writing something meaningful to the people.
So
it has become their business philosophy. Agar Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai, to then I will say it in the kitchen also. I'll make kitchen accessories. So, and that Amit Singhal says himself that has become my introduction of new products in that home, beyond paint. So this is what happens, that you created such a lot of brand love with understanding people. Yeah, my house is a reflection of my personality. Then somebody keeps adding more things that you require in the house. It has now become much bigger than, and I'll be honest, than I conceived it to be.
I have a small follow-on to that before I move on to my next question. Was it tough selling Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai to the client at that time?
It is the easiest moment of my life.
Wow.
I sat down and I only write by hand. So you can call me legacy writer, but legacy writing is good writing. So I wrote it by hand, and one piece of work that I did not change a bindi or a matra.
Wow.
Just flew. So I called up Amit Singhal, and KBS Anand used to be the CEO that time. I said, "What are you doing in your office?" He said, "Normal, regular work." I said, "Drop it, pick up your car and come to my office."
Wow.
They came, I read it out. All 3 of us had tears in our eyes. That was the selling.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Amazing.
Shashank, I have to ask.
Yeah.
Similarly on Cadburys, dude. कुछ खास है हम सभी में, sir. How did that happen, sir? Chocolates, no, I mean, in the wildest dreams for a traditional marketer, how would you sell a chocolate? It has the best cocoa, it has the best this, best that. Kuch khas hai hum sabhi mein. What a nerve! Like, I remember that campaign. I think all of us at some point have cried on that campaign.
Yeah. See,
sorry, Shashank.
Look at the background. The background was that till the 90s, we always had the buyer was the parent. The consumer was the child and the parent. So when these people grew up and became 15, 16 years old, their memories were, this chocolate was given to me when I did something that was good. And I was deprived when I did not tie my shoelaces. So it became a manipulative thing in the minds of the grown-ups. Yet, behind the scene, they were eating a lot of chocolate, of dairy milk. They were loving it. They didn't want to be seen. So the thought came from there that they have been users. They have left me. They still love me. How do I get them back? And there was a concern that if I go too adult, then my huge market of children I may lose. To which the thought came to me, thank God for that. And I love that thought, it just came that time. I've always believed in it. The theory was, there is a child in each one of us. So, Kuch Khas Hai Hum Sabhi Mein is a creative rendition of that each one of us has got something bubbling. See, growing up curbs you. Because that's when your parents start saying, Padosi kya sochega? Mausi kya sochegi? They forget that Mausi and Padosi both did not have the time to think of you. So we brought out the child in every human being. The children loved it, the adults loved it. The market changed overnight.
Amazing. Piyush, coming back to the brand, D2C world of brand creation, the new age brands, and, we've both been associated, me for a slightly smaller time with Unilever, where, Unilever splits the business between home care, personal care, and foods. And if you see the D2C brand space, most brands are in the personal care or the food space. How do you think of brands differently in these two categories? If I'm talking personal care versus if I'm talking foods, as the ad man on these brands, how do you think differently?
You don't have to. You don't really have to. I believe that keep your eyes and ears open. Don't erase your childhood. Don't erase your memories of living with a household bigger than what you are able to today, because people have gone on to their own work. Gone are the days of 7, 8 people living in the same house. But that is my greatest storage space for my work. What I was breathing there, nothing has changed. How your mother addressed food things, how she addressed soaps things. The attitude is to run that house and take care of the needs of everyone in the family. That has not changed. I do not categorize does a consumer think in categories? I've never heard of anyone who thinks in terms of categories. They think in terms of needs. And if we are able to address that, if you do it in mass communication and you're able to catch the pulse like Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai or Kuch Khas Hai Hum Sabhi Mein, then these are all things that you've learned over the years. But you thought that the books taught you more, which is not true. It is the winner in all your game, in everybody's game, is not the person who read the book, but the person who read between the lines.
Deep that was. Deep. Sir, what about concept selling, sir? In cases where, the customer might not even know about the need, exists in their life. When you've been able to make some of these brands like timeless, right? And they become almost category synonymous. But what about categories that don't exist, sir? Like in our case, for example, a female urination device. While the need exists, the category doesn't exist, or a menstrual cup, for example, need exists, the category doesn't exist. How do you go about thinking about such solutions being offered by D2C brand, niche solutions, sir?
When you go to the need, your mind is already taking on solutions. See, when somebody thought of the computer, the need for communicating was there. The need for information was there always. You said, hello, I can do it better. It will benefit you. You can do this, you can do that. See, you never create a need. So forget that idea. You are a smart businessman or a communicator who doesn't take research on face value. Research will give you what's obvious. Research will give you what is politically correct. If you're able to take out what's under the skin, that is the need which exists and is not being able to express, you give up. It is not, we are no Einstein Gabab. We have to see what is he not saying, but he wants to say it, doesn't know how to say it. So that is, I did not create the need in Cadburys for the adults to eat. I pulled out the license that he needed.
Nice. Wow.
Piyush, you've been around in the ad world for so long, in the creative world for so long, and you've seen the transition of the storytelling mediums, what started from radio and audio, then moved on to Doordarshan, then moved on to like cable TV, then IPL happened, and now the internet is happening. How has storytelling changed, and how does the storyteller need to upgrade himself or herself in terms of skills to adapt to?
Storyteller doesn't have to fool around with his art of storytelling. Storyteller has to embrace ways where my story can reach on 20 vehicles, which I only had 2 for. Say if you are the consumer, you're not a chameleon yet. You don't change 7 colors in a day. Your heart still bleeds red. It is your expressions and your needs that change. I don't have to change your personality. Never do. So don't touch storytelling. Why are movies like, what was that movie? Those blue characters, the Avatar. What is it? It is storytelling of the past said in a new way. Why does a Lion King still touch billions of hearts around the world? How did technology made Lion King 2, but the story was the same? Storyteller's thing is, how can I engage? So you engage on a hoarding in a different fashion. Not like the good old days. You put the key frame of my film onto the hoarding. Hey, hello. Use the hoarding accordingly. On this hoarding, I'll digress a little bit, but tell you a great story. I spoke in Bhopal earlier this year to CII members from Madhya Pradesh, plus some ministers who are in the front row. And they said, what is your take on government advertising? So I asked him, have you heard about the concept of chawal pe chaupai? If you go to museums, they'll show you a grain of rice. Is pe itna sara likha hua hai wo. So that my term for that is chawal pe chaupai. They said, yeah, we know about it. I said, how many of you read the chaupai? 0. I say, you go to a bus shelter from the government, it is chawal pe chaupai. 50 सूत्री program, ये वो सब लिख रखा है. मैं वहां बैठने वाला हूँ 1 minute.
This has been my pet peeve with these public bank billboards which adorn, outdoors, वो पूरा का पूरा prospectus छाप देते हैं कि हमारी PPT की slide हम
white spaces and pauses in audiovisual are magical spaces to be used. They are not places to be filled up because you had 30 seconds. इसमें भर दे ये भी. Well, I'm the receiver. I have some respect for me.
But I just have one follow on. As you said, storytelling and the concepts and basics of it don't change, but the mediums through which you tell, and they're actually getting richer, in fact, right? Than
everything is an opportunity.
How does a storyteller upgrade themselves on the skill? Because I assume that when you think of the story, you also think of the medium through which it will be told.
Again, be eyes and ears open. If I have an idea, in today's day, I will not discard that idea. I'll call some young guys and say, "Yaar, ye main sochta tha, ho sakta hai kya?" They will say, "Yes, I can do it like this and I can put it on that." If this is not an opportunity, what is an opportunity? We have to embrace technology, but never be a slave of technology. Your mind to use the technology is the biggest and the most. Who created technology? Our minds created technology. So don't lose respect for what you have acquired to this date, not just from your family, but your friends, your locality, the world, and then use it in your own way. Storytelling has not changed for thousands of years. Why do people still see Ramayana in various avatars? Why do they make a Karan Arjun in modern scenario? So there were great stories. There are great stories. And if you think of a fresh story which can touch chords, of course, why not?
Wow. Wow. Oh, thank you, sir.
Don't lose that bit. And I'll come to your D2C later on this topic. We'll touch it when it comes.
Go ahead, sir. Talk about it.
See, in your note that I got, things like, now you have an interaction. Never forget the meaning of interaction. And then I go back to what I said to you earlier, that don't be a transactional guy only. Like one of the things in the note was that we can make quick changes to what the consumer needs. What is your current process of doing it? Tell me. I'm asking you.
Of making a changing in a communication, sir?
And responding to the consumer. When they say, "Mujhe aisa acha lagta hai."
So we change, sir.
Okay, I'll give you the example, then you'll get
it. Sir.
So I say to you that you made these devices.
Sir. Peabody.
Peabody. Could we have something of this?
Sir.
What is your response?
So we usually say, yes, we work on it, sir.
Now, I think you must have a system, and I'm going to get you to spend some money, which is have a very dedicated and proper team. If I ask for something, which maybe as a naive person, I ask a question, answer naive questions also. Write to that person and say, "Sir, your suggestion, but you see there's a problem in this. I'll explain it to you." Or, "This is a good idea. I can't give it to you tomorrow, but I'm working on it." But the negatives have to be answered also. Or say, "No, this is what you're saying is a wishful thinking, but it will disturb the pattern of society." When you're talking one-on-one, then your communication with them should be one-on-one on issues which are beyond the question. This is the best advice I can give you, that, and don't get some joker to answer. It is not good enough for me to call up Dish TV and 20 people call me. "We are attending." Arey, you're disturbing. Either attend or don't talk. Either address or don't talk too much. Give me one call after the work and say, "Hope you are happy." Finished. So the key point of this, what I'm trying to share with you, is when you say, I interact, then take the word interact very, very seriously and in a dedicated fashion.
So I'll take you up on that offer, sir, of that
Deep,
session.
I actually have a follow on to that. That's a very interesting point. And it's been something that I think of a lot, that brands are not just built through ads, right? Like that's just one place where you touch the consumer. Your consumer care lines, the way the promoter in the store talks to you, the way a package comes to you when you order. Piyush, in your work and in your time, like how do you find people asking you to help them with the entirety of it, or with just advertising karni?
No,
Or if I may answer, or is that how you approach this anyways?
Yeah.
No, like when we did the launching of ICICI Bank, we designed it right to their counter. If you're saying this, you must look like this. So there is a very famous line which was in one of the addresses that Shelley Lazarus, ex-CEO of Ogilvy, she wrote that we must build brands like birds make nests. Every scrap, every tinka, everything must tie in together. Down to the line of saying, if you get a phone call and you have an operator, whatever the systems are today, who takes the call must sound like the brand's personality. So the answer to your question is yes, whatever you do. You see, forget advertising word. The word is communication. Communication is when I talk to you. Communication is when I talk to you on the phone. Communication is when I say hello to you, like I have to my many friends today saying Eid Mubarak. All that is communication. All that is affinity. All that is brand love.
Brilliant. So well, golden nuggets. When should a new age, digitally native young brand, like ours, think of approaching a creative agency such as yourself, sir? What stage do you think? Is there a stage where you say this is when we usually look at brands? Because sir, this problem needs to be solved right at the word go, right? And
today's day, there is no date, there is no age. If you are putting out a brochure, a leaflet, that's your communication. You need somebody who truly as a partner tells you, yeah, this is your brand. Our brochure should not be like any other leaflet. Everyone will throw it away. It must speak our language. It must have something that makes him say, 10 leaflets came to me in the newspaper today, but this one I want to read.
Absolutely.
So the element of design, the element of personality can be for a chaiwala who talks to you in a certain fashion, can be for a brochure, can be for mass communication, can be in everything. So when do you need it is when you think like this. When you say, okay, I can't afford one big name. Let me get some 2-3 young designers from NID. Let me get them freelance. And then slowly you will have the wherewithal to say, I can do more. So look at the role of affinity and brand love. And I laugh sometimes at Google and all when they say, you must do those thumb stoppers and you must do 7-seconders. I say, hello, who launched you? I bloody launched you. with Google Reunion, a 2-minute film. You remember the partition one? That was search. But the way you did the search, you won so many hearts. And look at Amazon itself. They do quite a lot of that work. And the work that they do for Rakhi is, my boys wrote it, but I sometimes say, I wish I'd written it. It's magic. So no matter what medium you use, don't lose the heart. Because going back to categories, this, that, यार नहीं, उसके एक ही दिल है, उसको छूने के 10 तरीके हैं.
Amazing. Actually, another follow on to that, you touched upon this saying, if you don't have the money to afford a star, shuru mein just get a designer and get it done. Actually, it's quite a trend nowadays that a lot of new age brands through equity partnerships, etc., are getting stars on board a lot earlier in their life stage than others. But I've always wondered, are all brands supposed to have stars? Like, or is there a distinction between these are the kind of brands who should not think
you
of?
You snatched my question, Shashank.
I named a chapter in my last book called "Do You Want to Be a Flea in the Tail of a Winning Racehorse?"
Wow. My God.
So, a star will not make your brand, your storytelling will. If you think you'll become famous, I'm sick and tired of seeing IPL these days. Everything is a celebrity. And if that was not enough, there are 3 of them in one. If that was not enough, there is 5 faces of the same bugger. There are 10 ads on double rolls because I think they think that 20 seconds, 40 seconds ka maja le lunga by showing him twice. So don't get fooled. Get your story right. I don't write. If I ever write a movie, I will not write it with Amitabh Bachchan in mind. I will write it for a role and then say, yeah, Amitabh Bachchan will add magic to this role. Get your process right. It's idiotic for people to definitely start with a star and then say, "Fir kaani likhunga." And when you do this, you find stars who give you 3 hours time. They're not bothered about your project. When you approach a star who says, yeah, let's discuss the story. When I speak to Mr. Bachchan, we discuss the script. I change the script in my listing. Sometimes when I've changed it from what he said, he'll come back and tell me, no, Piyush, what you said the first time was right. So if you get a star who doesn't think that he's a star, if you get a star who says, I am his or her partner for this period, and if you have a story that makes that your work gets improved by the star, that is the pattern. You can't say, "मैं launch कर रहा हूँ तो चलो 5 crore देके उसको ले आता हूँ." That is when I feel that such people do your business of startups a big disfavor, because then people like me say, "बाप का पैसा है तो ऐसे नहीं उड़ाता. Funding का पैसा है ना, उड़ा रहा है." You don't need that when you're doing serious business.
Wow. Hard hitting. We have some more time, or Shashank going to take the last question and then maybe we could wrap up.
Yeah, actually, last question for a lot of, I assume the audience for this is going to be a lot of new age brand founders who I think struggle with both. In the early days, it's about survival. It's about brand zinda rakhna hai, company zinda rakhni hai. Brand building का टाइम आएगा, करेंगे. अभी पहले धंधा करते हैं, अभी माल बेचते हैं पहले.
Wrong.
That's my question. How would you advise them to think about
simple,
brand?
Yeah, go back to the basics. एक चाय वाले ने दुकान खोली और let's go to samosas. उसके तो शाम को खराब हो जाएंगे यार. He'll have to throw away what he didn't sell. So धंधा बढ़ेगा by your ability to try and sell that. Then you will make more. ब्रांड बिल्डिंग का टाइम day 1 पे चालू होता है. मैं अगर जाता हूं और सब्जी वाला खड़ा है और चना जोर गरम, let's take चना जोर गरम. There are 10 guys standing. By and large, the same product. One guy talks to you in an exciting fashion. He sings a little song. You spend no money, but he's created his own song. You try and go to him. So everything is brand building. I was driving from Delhi to from Jaipur, Delhi. There are a whole lot of these places. Everyone's called kings. So एक का लुक एट ब्रांड बिल्डिंग. एक किंग्स का था लिखा हुआ, एक ने अपना नाम को सुपर किंग किया, एक ने किंग है, उसका लिखा था किंग्स ढाबा, शुद्ध स्वादिष्ट. और वो खाना तो उसका काम ही होता है ना. व्हाट इज दिस? उससे नेक्स्ट वाले ने लिखा हुआ था किंग्स का खाना नहीं खाया तो क्या खाना खाया. आई वेंट देयर. मैंने कहा ये इंटरेस्टिंग आदमी है. तो दैट ब्रांड बिल्डिंग इज इन वन लाइन. ब्रांड बिल्डिंग इज इन वन वे. यू से आई रिमेम्बर योर नेम. आई एम गोइंग देयर एंड चाय वाले ने कहा अरे पांडे जी चाय नहीं पिया आज, मेरी एक तो पी के जाओ. दैट इज ब्रांड बिल्डिंग, नथिंग एल्स. जब when you have more money, you spend more money. But if you should think like a brand builder from day one.
Amazing. Deep, I'm done. I have so much to sit and ruminate about that. I'm done with my question.
And one last thing which I wanted to speak to you about was purpose.
Yeah.
Never misuse purpose. Never try and ride on purpose. If you have something that you do sincerely, then use purpose, because consumers again are not a moron. She's your wife, David Ogilvy said. जहाँ तुम जबरदस्ती emotionally blackmail करोगे, he will badmouth you to 100 other people. Anything negative spreads faster. So never, everyone talks about purpose. If I'm selling you a little mithai and I say, no, and it is good for your health also. I mean, hello, yaar. You're selling a mithai, I will sell it to you saying, have this mithai, you will get a lot of joy out of its taste. If you're selling a protein-based thing like you are, then say that the purpose of this is not to do masti. It is nice masti. This is do good and be good. Ka balance hai. Be honest. You're putting your ingredients. You're being honest. So I really wanted to say, because everyone says, can I use some purpose? But I said, do you have a purpose? Then we'll put some purpose.
Thank you so much, Piyush ji.
God bless you.
Allow me to thank you properly, sir. This is a fan moment for both of us, here.
Absolutely.
Has been an absolute honor speaking to you, sir. And, we are all fans of your work. And I'm sure...
Listen, any such exercise is either a revision for me of my thoughts, or I'll go back learning from you guys. So I enjoyed it. So no thanks. Do well and create magic.
Nice, sir. You were just too kind, sir. I would love to thank Amazon also, Amazon Sambhav, for giving us this opportunity. We are brands which are built there. Thankful to Amazon for bringing you to us on one-on-one. I'm sure all the D2C brands will love to create some iconic brands that you have with you, looking at these insights, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all. Thank you, Amazon. Thank you, youngsters of today and tomorrow and forever. God bless you.